You're listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with John Hicks.
Thanks for joining us this week. You're listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast. I'm Jennifer Perry here with John Hicks. If you have a question for us, there are a couple of easy ways to reach out. Just go online to retirementsolutionradio.com or hit us up on Facebook with your questions for John. Do a search there for the Retirement Solution with John Hicks. At the end of last week's show, I know it was a holiday weekend, so a lot of our listeners probably missed it, but you brought up something that was really, I think, important enough to bring up again this week. The co-founder of PayPal. You mentioned this. It's a guy named Peter Thiel. I'd never heard of him before, but he's been making headlines with a report that he managed to grow his own Roth IRA account from just an initial $2,000 investment to more than $5 billion
That's a little bit of money.
Yes. And money that's never going to be taxed again. That's the important thing you say about Roths, right?
Absolutely.
So most of us hear that, though, and they're like me and think, there's no way that I could do the same kind of thing. But is there?
Well, there's a long and a short answer to that. The short answer is, of course you could. Now, let's be realistic. Turning $2,000 into $5 billion takes a pretty good amount of skill and or luck, right? But the idea is that can we turn $2,000 or $5,000 into hundreds of thousands or millions or, frankly, even tens of millions or hundreds of millions? Yes, you can. But this article was great, Jennifer. I'm going to break it down a little bit because most people, it just blows their mind like, oh my gosh, that's not possible. You know, this is a case of the rich getting richer, probably by stealing it from someone else. No, not quite. So Peter Thiel, obviously, who is one of the founders of PayPal. Most people know PayPal. If you've ever paid for anything online, they say you can use Visa, MasterCard, your debit card, or PayPal. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things. So it's pretty much common occurrence in the world right now. But what he did is he realized when he was founding this company, he thought, man, you know what? If things work out, I want to have a little bit of this stock in my Roth. So he had $2,000 in his Roth IRA. So what he decided he was going to do is he was going to buy shares of this company before it went public. So this was a privately held company at the time. Now here's where the hard part is. Here's what we can't do very easily, Jennifer. Okay. He got that company's stock valued at 1/10 of 1 cent per share. Okay. Now there's the tough part. The tough part. Because most of us, if we own our own businesses, now you got to do things correctly, right? You got to deal with your CPA, your tax attorney, on how you value your company. But this happens all the time, especially with companies called SPACs, which are special purpose acquisition companies. So if you create a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company, many times this company is built for one reason, to raise capital to buy another company. Okay. So if you start a SPAC, technically, if you put no money in it, then the share value might be 1 penny or 1/10 of 1 penny, right? Now, once you've raised money and you've acquired assets, now that share price should rise. That's exactly what Thiel did. He basically bought 1.7 million shares of PayPal at 1/10 of 1 penny each.
Wow.
So when the stock price went through the roof over the next, I guess the last 20 years or so, then his money grew to over $5 billion. So a lot of people go, well, that's not even possible, John. I make too much money. I can't even put money into a Roth. And all I have to say is, who there, brother. That may not be true. As a matter of fact, I know it 90+% of the time to be untrue.
Okay.
Anyone can get money in a Roth IRA. Now, I say anyone with an asterisk because I don't know what crazy rules are out there for some people. But most of us, almost every one of us, can get money into a Roth. So if you make too much money, what is too much money? If you have household income over $200,000, our CPAs or bookkeepers or accountants have pretty much said you can't do a Roth. Mm-hmm. That's technically true, but let's talk about the loophole, right?
Oh, okay.
Little loophole. So the loophole works like this. If you want to get money into a Roth and you make over $200,000 a year, what you do is you just go ahead and put, let's say, $6,000. If you're under 50 years old, you can put $6,000 into a traditional IRA. Now, here's a good chance that you're not going to get a tax deduction for putting that money in there, Jennifer.
Okay.
If you make too much money.
Gotcha.
But that's not the point. The point is, even though you're not going to get a tax deduction, you can then backdoor that money into a Roth IRA by doing a conversion.
Ooh.
So what this means is although we make over $200,000, we can't put money in a Roth. We can put $6,000 into a traditional IRA and immediately convert it to a Roth IRA, which means we can get money in a Roth IRA. So not so bad. And if we're over 50 years old, we can do $7,000 a year that way.
Okay.
Not so bad.
More,
all right.
Yeah.
Now, $7,000 a year is probably not going to give us $5 billion, right? Right. So that's the realism of it. But let's look at some real situations where this has happened to people in the past. So let's assume we don't own our own business. We can't buy shares for 1/10 of 1 penny. Let's talk about some other things. Believe it or not, Jennifer, if you had put $10,000 in Amazon, and most people know who Amazon is.
Yes.
If you had put $10,000 in Amazon when it first came to the market, its share price was about $1.50. So $1.50 a piece. So if you had done that $10,000, assuming you never put another penny into it, would be worth about $23 million today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the amazing thing is that there's companies out there, guys, that especially because of artificial intelligence, especially because of the way that things are moving, especially now that we're cracking the human genome, we're cracking the code on some of these things, these disruptive technologies. Guys, I think that right now may be one of the best times in history to be able to take a few bucks and go for one of those sleeper picks. Now, I'm not saying invest all your life savings. I'm kind of talking what Jim Cramer says, mad money, where this is money that you can, frankly, you don't want to lose it, but you could afford to lose $1,000 or $2,000. But if you did that in a Roth IRA and you did, hit the home run and that stock price goes up 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold, like a Tesla or an Amazon, or in this case, the PayPal for Peter Thiel, you could easily turn that money into tens of millions of dollars.
Wow.
Now, why is it so cool to have in a Roth? Because you never pay taxes again on that money.
There's a reason Peter did this for himself, right?
It's genius.
Yes.
It's genius. And it didn't require a trust. It didn't require an estate planning attorney. It didn't require any of those things. Any of us can start a Roth at Vanguard. We start them for our clients all day, every day. We typically use TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab. And the whole point of that is that even if you don't put a ton in it, we don't mind those accounts to be used for kind of aggressive plays. Now, I'm not talking, again, about large sums of our money, but 1% of our portfolio, that's not a bad idea if we're looking at those disruptive technologies where that money will grow potentially to the moon and never pay taxes again. That is the genius of Roth. Now, some people may never even choose to do that, but here's another cool piece of it, Jennifer, that wasn't talked about in that article. Imagine how awesome it would be if you had a pension that was completely tax-free. Ooh, now that's the other cool way to use the Roth, where we're not talking about growth of the investment, but what if we had a pension type asset in that Roth? Maybe something that spun off an income stream of 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8% a year. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can do this. Our Omega strategies historically have done things like this. You could even do this with an annuity. But the whole point is that every single dollar that you pull out of income as income, completely tax-free. You will never pay taxes on those dollars as it comes out to you for income.
Nice.
So, Jennifer, I was reading an article the other day, and it talked about how there was one gentleman, I can't remember where he was, but he actually had a $250,000 annual income that came from an annuity inside of his Roth IRA, completely tax-free.
Nice.
He had over $20,000 every month that came to his bank account completely tax-free. Here's the cool thing, for as long as he lives and as long as his spouse lives.
Wow.
So no matter what tax rates do in the future, whether they go up 20%, down 5%, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they did that, you would still never pay taxes again. So the Roth IRA might be one of the best weapons ever for us to combat what I see is a ridiculous likelihood that we're going to pay higher taxes in the future. Once that GOP tax blessing expires, guys, this may be one of our only salvations. I suggest everyone understand the rules and getting a Roth IRA in place immediately because we don't know when they're going to change the rules.
And what's so inspiring about hearing about the Peter Thiel story, most of us don't need $5 billion in that Roth account to live on. And we may not need $250,000 a year to live on, John, but these are doable strategies and something that you actually help people break down through an income quote and tax analysis there at the office. Using that artificial intelligence you mentioned, you can really customize these strategies based on just how much income someone needs in their retirement years.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably one of the coolest things that technology can do. Typically what it means is we can find out precisely what that client needs, make sure that we get very optimally placed in their assets so they can spend all the money they want. They can gift as much money as they choose, and they're really just going to be able to sleep at night, not having to worry about what lame brain idea that Washington comes up with to part us from our dollars, right?
Yes.
Like what you hear? Be sure to hit the subscribe button. And thanks for listening to The Retirement Solution with John Hicks.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or any specific security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. J. Hagan Capital is a registered investment advisor. To find out if John Hicks is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal advice. Annuity guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products and annuities offered through John Hicks. Kentucky Insurance License Number 998827.